All right, everyone, welcome to Strictly Sports. I'm Jacob Brown. Today we're going to do our Baltimore Orioles 2020 season preview, joined as always with Mr. Stephen Cashin. The Baltimore Orioles were 54 and 108 last season, and we're going to break them down how we always break them down. We're going to do additions, subtractions, lineup, bench, rotation, bullpen, prospect. And I want to start out by first of all pointing out this morning, Orioles right fielder and first baseman Trey Mancini announced that he was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer, which means that even if the season resumes, he might not be able to play. That would be an absolute shame for the Orioles. He was their best player, had 35 home runs and 97 RBIs last season with a 373 WOBA. We wish him the absolute best in his recovery. Steven, do you have anything to say in regards to Trey Mancini?
Yeah, I mean, I woke up this morning. That was the first thing I saw on my phone, and it's heartbreaking. It's way bigger than baseball. Anytime you see this in sports, it's really you feel for the family, his teammates, guys that are around him every single day, and it's pretty aggressive too. Stage 3 colon cancer. I mean, something that he's gonna be. You take the battle off the field, be something he's gonna have to work with, day in day out. But wish him all the best and a speedy recovery, and hopefully he beats this cancer battle and gets back out there on the field.
Yep. So our thoughts are with him here, and we hope that he can recover and maybe play at some point this season. But we're going to review this team as if he's not going to be in the lineup. So who did the Orioles add? They added shortstop Jose Iglesias from the Cincinnati Reds, starting pitcher Cole Stewart from the Minnesota Twins, Hector Velasquez off waiver from the Red Sox, and then on minor league deals, they added Wade LeBlanc and Tommy Malone. Both of them pitched with the Mariners last year. The Orioles traded away Dylan Bundy. They lost Jonathan Villar to the Miami Marlins. They lost Aaron Brooks and Gabriel Noah. And then Mark Trumbo became a free agent as well. So this is what their lineup looks like. Leading off and playing second base, Hanser Alberto. He hit 305 last year, but against lefties, he hit 398. Against righties, he hit 238. Huge splits there. Batting second and playing right field, I have Anthony Santander, 20 home runs in 93 games. He's also 25 years old. In the 3-hole, where you really could go anywhere with this Orioles lineup. Now that Mancini might not be in there, I had him there. So maybe you can move Renato Nunez up a spot to the 3-hole. He DH last year, had 31 homers, 90 RBIs. Then Pedro Severino, the catcher. Left fielder Dwight Smith. Then center fielder Austin Hayes. Third baseman Rio Ruiz, and then Jose Iglesias. And that's how the Orioles lineup round out. And I think the person that would replace Trey Mancini at first base would be their first base prospect, 94 prospect in Major League Baseball, first Brian Mountcastle, 23 years old, 127 games of AAA last year, 25 home runs, 83 RBIs. So if I'm the Orioles, Mountcastle is my first baseman this year. But Steven, you look at this lineup, not one of the best lineups in baseball. What's your take?
Yeah, they got a lot of youth on this team, and that's where you look at a team that's really trying to rebound, struggling in the last couple of years. Obviously only 54 games last year, being in the bottom of the barrel of the division year in and year out as of late. But they're grooming their prospects up, and there's some openings here to kind of find out where to place these guys. Like I said, Ryan Mountcastle, unforeseen with this Mancini. With him being out, cancer incident. And so now you get a guy like Mountcastle into the lineup, and he has great numbers in AAA, had 550 plate appearances last season in AAA, batted 312 average-wise, and his strikeout percentage is high, but, that comes along with getting to the higher levels of baseball. But to get him in place in that lineup would be amazing for this team, see what he has and the ability there. But I like a guy like Hanser Alberto, too, a guy who really, takes pride in the leadoff role. You're losing Jonathan Villar in the offseason. That's a huge, huge loss for that Orioles squad. But there's pieces in here that you can really, mix and match and try to find your identity. And that's huge for this Orioles team, trying to bounce back and, maybe try to get into the mix again somewhere down the road. But you have Santander, Nunez. There's pieces that are there that can really solidify that line. And I got to mention Chris Davis just really falling off the map after signing a massive deal a few years ago. Just really hasn't found his consistency. He's just lost the touch of his game, and It's just really if he could find his game again, yeah, you have a really good bat there, and you can place him back in the lineup. But there's going to be some things for this Orioles team to really find out and really find their identity. Like I said before.
Yeah, I think they can mix in outfielder DJ Stewart, who's on the bench, 26 years old, 139 weighted run created plus at AAA in 63 games. You can maybe play him over Dwight Smith Jr., who pretty much struggled. I mean, an 83 weighted run created plus last year for Dwight Smith, not the best. I think what they're really going to count on though is that young core of Pedro Severino, Reynaldo Nunez, Santander, Mountcastle if he's there. And then, the one thing I worry about with Hanser Alberto is that split. I mean, you hit 398 versus lefties, 238 versus righties. That's a huge split.
Yeah, for sure. And then I look at too. What was interesting about Alberto is he had a career year last year.
Yeah.
He batted 305. In previous years with Texas, he batted 185, 143, and 222. But that was his first year and only played 41 games. So he hasn't seen a whole lot of time. But last year he played a full slate of 139 games, got more plate appearances and at bats. So a guy who really hasn't shown and proven a whole lot at the big league level. And you look at the splits, like you said, so that's kind of concerning there. But you know, I think he's got to really build. I think with the confidence and moving on to another full year, you'll really see him start to grow. Versus lefties, he tears it up. I mean, I think if he can really translate that to this year again, then yeah, you have a really solid leadoff guy, not losing much at the leadoff spot after losing VR. So I like his play over there at second base as well. He's a really solid player, and if he can really back up what he did last year and playing a full set of games, they got a good guy right there, and that's one less piece you got to worry about developing and reaching out for.
Yeah, and they also have some other young players as well that had reduced time at the major league level. Mainly Austin Hayes, 24-year-old center fielder at AAA. 10 home runs, 7 RBIs, 89 weighted run created plus. Not the best numbers. So Hayes has got to improve. They have a young third baseman, 25 years old, Rio Ruiz. So they have youth on their side. So I don't want to necessarily look at these players and just say, oh, they suck and, we write them off the board. These are young players at the same time that are all developing together. There might be some breakthrough players in here that we're not even talking about now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so every seeing them, being a Rays fan and being a Yankees fan, we watch the AL East all the time, and so we see, seeing them, it seems like every week almost, and playing them, and we find guys throughout this lineup like Alberto last year. That was a guy who I started next to, that lineup and saying, wow, they have a really diamond in the rough there. Young youth is on their side, like you said, so I don't want to ride off the Orioles per se. Their record doesn't show how they're building the pieces to this organization. But like I said, you got guys like Dwight Smith Jr., Pedro Severino going to lean on him to really kind of carry the torch there for this team. And the prospects there and they're building up are really helping them get a lineup placed out there 1 through 9 and try to piece it together. And their pitching has been kind of subpar the last few years. It haven't really helped them out, and the offense is trying to complement that and really kind of carry them to wins. But I like where the Orioles are headed directional wise in the organization. They're doing things the right way. They got trades, got pieces for them, and we'll see how it pans out for them this year. But they're heading in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, I mean their farm system's up there, and we'll get to that in a second. But I mean to kind of go back to reality for a second, because there's a lot of projection here and speculation. When you actually look at the stats, though, none of these players that are in the lineup right now were above league average. They were all below league average. Every single hitter in this lineup, even Renato Nunez. So obviously, if Mancini were in there, he'd be the best player by far. But there's just no player in this lineup that was even league average at the plate. So they need at least 2 or 3 of these hitters to get to that point for them to succeed. Because you look at this bench, they're not getting help. You mentioned it, Chris Davis. The drop off has been tremendous. I mean, a WOBA of 63 and a weighted run created plus of 58. That's horrendous. That might be the worst that we've seen in all these breakdowns. Again, DJ Stewart, maybe he's the guy that fills in for Dwight Smith. He struggles again. But then you have Chance Sisco. he's not really going to get a bunch of playing time over Severino. Steve Wilkerson is not going to get playing time for Austin. Richie Martin, the shortstop, it looks like they're going with Iglesias there. So you look at this Orioles lineup, they need two or three of these guys to at least be league average.
Yeah, that's you look at the advanced stats here, and like I said, they're well below league average for some of these guys. And for this team to improve, if there's any direction in getting better this season, you're going to need guys like you said, like Smith Jr., Severino, to really kind of step up his game just a little bit. Even though he's going to be the youth core for this team, but for them to really get more wins is to get these guys above league average and really kind of getting that run production up. Not necessarily, you don't need the home run ball on a long ball. So you really want some of these guys, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots, really kind of generating some more runs, getting on base more to really try to, get this team going because you can mix and match a ton with this team. Like I said, with DJ Stewart on the bench, Richie Martin, Cisco. I mean, he's not going to see a whole lot of time because Severino is their guy behind the dish. So if things don't pan out with the starting lineup there, you have guys on the bench that can come in and fill that role. But it comes with being young too. It's the more time you get in the league, you're going to get better, and it's just it's a work in progress. But some of these guys really got to step up and produce for this team to if they want to have any aspirations of getting anywhere down the road here.
Yeah, I agree with you. And now we move on to this rotation, and this is where it really just dips for this team. John Means, really respectable starter. He made the All-Star team. He was their All-Star representative, I believe. 27 games started last year, 155 innings, 3.60 ERA, 4.41 FIP, with 7 strikeouts per nine. He's actually really good. I like John Means. He throws strikes, and he's pretty reliable up there for them. But then after that, that's where you kind of lose me with this rotation. Alex Cobb was injured last year and had 12 bad innings. He struggled in 2018 with an ERA at almost 5. So he hasn't really had an Alex Cobb type of year since 2017. Then they have Asher Wojciechowski in the 3 spot. He's 31 years old, basically been a journeyman minor leaguer, up and down major leagues, minor league, and he's 31 years old. Then they have Wade LeBlanc, veteran, bounced between the bullpen and the rotation last year, ERA at almost 6. Not that great. Tommy Malone hasn't had a full year in his starting rotation since 2015. So, Steven, this rotation, man, there's really nothing there.
Yeah, that this is probably I would give it probably the worst grade out of all the teams done, just because there's not a whole lot of substance there. I mean, they went and got Alex Cobb a few years ago from Tampa, and he signed that mass. He signed a pretty big deal, I believe, upwards of 60 mil. Uh,
Yeah.
but after that, after the injury he had suffered, the Tommy John, the elbow injury, he hasn't been the same guy, and that mentally, it's for a pitcher to get back out there and try to throw the same after snapping something off like that. It's really hard to do. Not many guys can do that, but you look at John Means, and he's the best guy they have, quote unquote, and a 3.60 ERA. Strikeout per 9 is only a 7, and your walks are 2. So for that to be your ace, I mean, you're in trouble there. And Wojnowski, I mean, he's up and down a lot. He hasn't found consistency at the big league level, which kind of concerns you a little bit. In 82 and a third innings pitch, he has a 4.92 ERA, been bounced around. So you're trying to find some solidarity for this lineup, but there's really not a whole lot there. You're kind of experimenting with LeBlanc and Malone, so you really haven't developed a pitching staff that you can trust and rely on. And you went out and got Velasquez off waiver from Boston, and I think that's a good pickup to try to give you some depth and some help, and try to find some sort of you know pitching staff per se. But they're in trouble. I think you might see a drop off with this team just because you never went out and got any pitching help, and there's some on the way in the system, in the farm system, but you're just not a whole lot there to work off of right now.
Yeah, I mean, you basically covered all the bases there. I mean, there's just nothing to look forward to. I mean, We'll get to the prospects in a second, but they're pretty far away too. And yes, they also picked up Cole Stewart Twins. Maybe he gets a rotation spot, but like you said, it's just a bunch of mixing and matching. Who's going to work? Who can we just throw out there to eat up innings? Because they know they're not going to win. They just need a guy that can just save that bullpen basically every day for a few innings. So you look at this bullpen right now. Hector Velasquez and Cole Stewart are in it. Again, they could maybe be in the rotation, and you could see LeBlanc and Malone in the bullpen. Who knows? But they also have Paul Fry in the bullpen, Tanner Scott at 12.65 Ks per nine, but he also walks 6.5 per nine. That might be the highest walks per nine we've seen. So he's a lefty that throws 98 to 100. That's why you might see some of those control issues. They also have Miguel Castro, Richard Blyer, Hunter Harvey, Michael Gibbons. So their bullpen actually isn't terrible. It's still below average, but they have some guys out there.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at guys like Michael Gibbons. He's a really big cornerstone of that bullpen, playing high school alumni. Another guy that's come from my neck of the woods, made it to the major leagues. Have to give him a shout out there. But he's a guy who's going to eat up a ton of innings all year, and you got it concerns you a little bit if you're an Orioles fan because you don't want to burn his arm out. He's got good stuff when he's on the money. He has a kind of sidearm action, and that slide and that fastball it gets on people quick. And when he's on a roll, he can strike a ton of guys out, and he's really consistent. He gets off the mark. That's where you find yourself some trouble, and that comes with overloading, taxing him too early in the season. But you look at guys like Velasquez who can help out in that bullpen. Hunter Harvey is a guy who I liked in the minor league system. He has potential to be a bridge guy and be a help to your pitching staff backside of the bullpen late in games too. But I think this bullpen can really help this team piece together some wins and really they played some close games last year too and that's where they kind of won and lost some. Trying to find consistency in that youth of this bullpen and this team. But they'll grow this year. I think giving Gibbons another year underneath his belt, critique his stuff. A guy like Scott, his strikeouts per nine are really good, but the walks are what kills him. But there's things to look forward to in this pen and can win them some games. But that's about it, really. I mean, they're really going to have to lean on some guys to really pull them through this season.
Yeah, and I also think that they would be a team that's willing to trade a guy like Michael Gibbons at the trade deadline. If there's a team that might need a reliever, a late innings guy, the Orioles can give away a guy like Michael Gibbons. Same thing, if Mancini's healthy, and if he ever, hopefully, once he recovers from colon cancer, that's a guy also that has tremendous trade value. I mean, you look at Trey Mancini, 373 WOBA, 132 weighted run created plus. That's a really above average league player. But I mean, really, when you compare him to the rest of the league, he's right there with some of those star players. So if they can get some value for him, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, this pen is just piecing guys together. I think they just want to find a group of guys that can complete 9 innings for them. Really, I mean, because everyone at their minor league system is a few years away, and we'll get to that right now. So according to our guest system, and we call it GES. So the guest system that stands for General Evaluation System for our players. We evaluate them by APR and TPRP. APR is average prospect ranking. TPRP is total prospect rating points. So APR, basically, you get a certain number of points if you're a top 5 prospect, top 10 prospect, top 20, so on and so forth. The Orioles are ranked 8th out of all those categories averaged out. So the Orioles have the number 4 prospect in baseball, switch hitting catcher drafted from Oregon State, catcher Adley Rutschman, number 1 pick overall in the 2019 draft. He does not have very many minor league stats, though, but this is a dude that they're really hoping in the future can be the anchor of this team, their next, Manny Machado type talent. At number 36 prospect, right-handed pitcher Grayson Rodriguez, 20 games started at single A last year, 2.68 ERA, 12.35 Ks per nine, and .38 home runs per nine numbers, and he's only 20 years old. And they have number 69 prospect, left-handed pitcher DL Hall, 21 years old, 17 games started at minor league level with 12.94 Ks per nine. And then, like we mentioned earlier, they have number 94 prospect, first baseman Bryant Mountcastle, who I fully expect that they'll put him at first base now that Trey Mancini is dealing with colon cancer. So you look at this minor league system, Steven, there are some guys that are on the way, but they are a few years away.
Yeah, there's still time for these guys to develop. I look at it, and the scouts and the GMs they hit a home run on these picks. In my opinion, Adley Rutschman, a guy who I liked at Oregon State, watching him, I believe he was on the team that took them to the College World Series. Uh,
Yes.
Really solid player. I mean, behind the dish, he has a strong arm, can throw guys out. He's a long way. He's not a long way away. I would say I'd give him a couple years to really refine his game. And there's really no rush right now because you have Pedro Severino behind the dish for you right now for the Orioles. So you give him some time to really find his game and really just strengthen himself in the system. Another guy who I like is Grayson Rodriguez, a guy that really they did a nice job finding a gem there. And in single A, I mean, having a 2.6 ERA, you can't ask for any better. I mean, in today's game, if you're in the 2 range of ERA, mid twos, you're well on your way. And the strikeouts per nine is right there at 12.3. That's amazing in today's game. Home runs per nine, 0.38, awesome. Walks you want to see get down a little bit. It's a 3.45 per nine, but he's got a lot of good stuff. And to be a 20-year-old, with those numbers right now, he did the ceiling, for this guy is just it's up there. And only at single A. So we'll see where he's at in double A, potentially triple A down the road here in the next 1-2 years. But they have a lot of guys they can lean on, but they're still quite a few years away. DL Hall has some things to work on with the walks there. Strikeouts are up there too. So they have really good guys that have good stuff and can really be cornerstones in the next few years. And then Mountcastle to really cap everything off. He'll be a guy that we see at the big league level with Mancini and not being on the team this year. In my projection, I don't think Mancini will be back at all this year. I think he's got to really work on his health, and there's some other things there. But they got a good guy, Mountcastle, that can come in and play right away, and we'll see what he's all about. And excited to see what he brings to this Orioles team.
Yeah, and in order to do that, just if anyone's wondering, I think what you could do is just you put Nunez at third base, and then you put Mountcastle at first, and you could do something like that. So because at third base right now they have Rio Ruiz, didn't have that great of an offensive year, so that's how you can get Mountcastle into that lineup. Yeah, I think we basically covered all the bases with this Orioles team. We always end with these pods with our off-season grades and where they'll place in the division. I think it's pretty obvious. I think they'll be last place in this AL East. You don't lose 108 games and then come back the next year, being better than other teams in this division. They have a long ways to go, probably 3 or 4 years away from maybe competing. And in terms of an off-season grade, I guess I just give them a C, probably just because they got a starting shortstop in Jose Iglesias. They tried to piece together this rotation with some minor league deals, but overall, there's really not much that they can do. So I can't really fault them for not going big and getting some big free agents or swinging some big trades. So that's why I'd probably give them a C. What about you, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, I was leaning towards I don't really want to give the bottom 5 teams D grades, but there's only so much these guys can do, and I think a C is good enough for them because they don't have a whole lot of assets they can really they can strong arm teams with and really get rid of. But you lost a guy in Jonathan VR who I think was going to be a great player if they could re-sign him and keep him. Unfortunately, he goes to Miami, but you did get Jose Iglesias. You got Hector Velasquez off of waiver Boston, so you did some good things there to try to help yourself out. You lost Dylan Bundy too, but like I said, only so much you can do. Being a bottom 5 team, not many guys you can really trade away. Guys leave; they want to go play in different sceneries. Losing 100 games a year is not fun. I see them in last place again. This AL East is loaded. Even down to Toronto, they still have some talent on that team. They can muster up some wins. So I don't see them jumping up a whole lot. They could probably maybe improve to 60 wins potentially, but I have them in last place as well.
Yeah, so that'll do it for this Baltimore 2020 season preview. So for the next few days, this is going to be the lineup of podcasts. So we're finally finishing up these 30 for 30 baseball pods. We've had so much fun doing these, man. And so the way it's going to go, you're going to get the Orioles one, of course. You're already listening to it. It came out today. The Blue Jays is coming out tomorrow on Wednesday. On Thursday, you'll get Red Sox. Friday, you'll get the Rays. Saturday, Yankees. And then Sunday, you'll get our American League playoff prediction pod. Then next Tuesday, you're going to get our FAU athletics pod. Next Thursday, we're going to do a college football, college basketball pod. And then after that, we're going to get into our weekly pods again, doing Tuesday and Thursday episodes. So that's the upcoming schedule for us. Of course, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and a bunch of other platforms. They're all in the description. And you can follow us on Twitter at Strict Sports FAU. For Stephen Cashin, I am Jacob Brown, and we'll see you next time.